Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a classroom management philosophy called magic. And really, it's all built on this one powerful, game-changing idea that preventing problems is just so much more effective than reacting to them. So let's get right into it.
You know, this quote from our source material really gets right to the heart of it. It completely reframes the whole goal, doesn't it? So often, we're taught to be firefighters, just reacting to problems as they flare up. But the real magic, the real trick, is to become an architect, to design a classroom where those fires never even get a chance to start.
And yeah, that's the big question, right? It sounds great in theory, but what does being proactive, what does preventative classroom management actually look like on a Tuesday morning with a room full of kids? Well, today, we're going to break that down into a really clear, really practical framework.
So here's our roadmap. We'll start with the core idea. Then we'll look at what students actually need, the psychology behind all of it, and then, finally, we'll get into the concrete stuff, strategies around your classroom, humor, and maybe most importantly, your own mindset.
Okay, let's dive into this first part. This is really where we reframe our entire approach to student behavior. Think of it like moving from a defensive crouch to a confident, forward-moving stance.
And this is that shift right here. The real work isn't about building shields to protect ourselves from disruptions. No, it's about being that architect, building a classroom culture where positive behavior is just the natural default, where disruptions actually feel out of place. We're playing offense, not just defense.
Okay, so if we're going to prevent problems, we first have to understand the people in the room with us. So what do students themselves say makes a great teacher? Well, the answer is way simpler and maybe a little more profound than you might think.
So check this out. What's really interesting here is just how human these desires are. I mean, look at this list from the source. They want someone who can have a laugh, who is firm but fair, who is consistent, and who makes lessons enjoyable. No big surprises, right? But here's the so what. When students feel that fairness, they are so much less likely to argue about instructions. When they experience consistency, they feel secure. They don't need to test the boundaries all the time. This isn't about being liked. It's about building a foundation of respect that just naturally prevents disruptions.
All right, let's move on to the core theory here and see how this all builds into a powerful strategy. It's based on a really simple, universal truth about human beings, one that we can actually influence directly in our classrooms.
Okay, this right here, this is the engine of the entire philosophy. You see, our behavior is really dependent on our feelings. If we feel good, we tend to behave in a way that reflects that. So it follows that if we can create positive experiences for our students, we can influence their mood for the better. And by doing that, we can directly influence their behavior. It's a chain reaction.
And this quote just brilliantly illustrates the direct payoff. Every single positive interaction, every moment of belonging, every bit of fun, it's all a direct investment in a focused, productive, and disruption-free lesson. A positive mood isn't just a nice-to-have, it's a strategic tool.
So now for the really practical part. How do we create those good experiences that lead to good moods? Well, it starts the very moment a student walks through your door. It starts with the room itself.
I want you to picture these two classrooms from the source. Classroom A just screams, "No one cares here," which, is basically an open invitation for students to not care either. It just breeds chaos. But Classroom B, that one communicates respect and purpose before you even say a single word. And the difference isn't about budget, it's about the feeling they create, one of chaos versus one of calm, belonging, and value.
The takeaway here is crystal clear. An environment that makes students feel valued and safe is going to make them happier. And happy students are engaged students. And look, this doesn't require a huge budget. It can be a work of the week board, or playing some calm music as students enter, greeting them at the door, or just making sure the space is tidy. These are all small acts that build up to a powerful, nonverbal message you're sending every single day.
So, beyond the physical space, there's this incredibly powerful and honestly often underutilized tool for managing mood, building relationships, and making learning really stick. And that tool is humor. The source material gives us 7 fantastic strategies for using humor. We're going to focus on the big ones, like using funny stories and laughing at yourself, but it also includes things like sharing relevant cartoons, funny quotes, or even having a joke of the day. Let's look at a couple that can have a huge, immediate impact.
This is the foundation. It really is. When you, the authority figure, can laugh at your own mistakes, you're modeling that it's okay not to be perfect. You create this sense of psychological safety, and you show that learning involves stumbling sometimes. It is an absolute game changer for your classroom culture. To drive this home,
The author shares this amazing personal story of a science experiment gone wrong. Instead of it being a disaster, it became this legendary moment of hilarious connection, all because he was willing to laugh at the situation and at himself.
And this slide just shows the strategic difference perfectly. The old approach, well, that's a power struggle you're probably going to lose. The new approach from the source, though, is brilliant. You acknowledge the talent, you validate the student, and then you channel it productively. You turn a potential adversary into an ally.
Now, to make this work, it can't be a free-for-all. Of course not. We need clear boundaries. The source gives us these 4 essential rules. This isn't just about being funny. It's about building a positive, respectful culture with intention.
So let's zoom out to the final and maybe the most critical takeaway from our source material. All of these strategies, the environment, the humor, the relationships, they all spring from one single source.
This is the ultimate point. The source reminds us that your attitude is the one thing that is completely, totally, and utterly under your control. The environment, the humor, all the preventative strategies, they all flow from the attitude you choose to bring into that room each and every day. It's the root from which everything else grows.
So we'll leave you with this question. It's not about overhauling everything overnight. It's about small, intentional shifts. What's one small thing you can do tomorrow to create a better experience, to boost the mood, and to prevent problems before they even start? That right there, that's your action plan for creating a more positive, productive, and enjoyable classroom for everyone.